If you are interested in history, politics, or simply follow the news, you have likely noticed how rapidly relations between states can change. Friends become enemies, enemies become friends, betrayals occur, alliances collapse. This often seems sudden and inexplicable. Yesterday there was friendship, today hostility, or vice versa. The reason lies in national interests. Keeping this in mind makes reality much clearer. The national interest is reduced to the survival, security, and sovereignty of the state. The state in turn is not an abstraction, but a set of concrete individuals. What results is an intertwining of the objective and the subjective. There is an objective need for the state to endure, but this need is interpreted and acted upon by people, with their values, judgments, and understanding of reality. Thus, the national interest is what they articulate and believe it to be. The national interest is the cornerstone of foreign policy, because it concerns the very existence of the state. Ideological, moral, religious, and other considerations are often set aside. It does not matter who we are, where we come from, what we believe, or what we say. Nor does it matter who they are. Whether we were enemies or allies moments ago or for centuries is secondary. If, in a given situation, partnership or hostility corresponds to the national interest as defined by those in power, then that determines the course of action. The essence of the national interest was succinctly expressed by Henry John Temple, 3rd Viscount Palmerston. We have no eternal allies and no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, and those interests it is our duty to follow. From theory to practice. Consider the period between the world wars. During World War I, one side was the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy. The other the Entente, Russia, France, the United Kingdom. The United States initially observed. The war ended, empires collapsed, and Germany and Russia, which had just fought each other, became partners. This shift reflected national interests under new conditions. Germany faced the constraints of the Treaty of Versailles. Russia became Soviet and remained internationally isolated. Despite differences in history, language, political systems, and values, their immediate interest coincided, and this outweighed everything else. Germany's elites sought revision of the post-war settlement, but were constrained by France and Britain. Soviet Russia needed reconstruction after war and civil conflict, lacked recognition, capital, technology, and personnel. Both found themselves isolated. What united them was the question of state viability and sovereignty. Cooperation began well before 1939. A key step was the Treaty of Rapallo, by which Germany and Soviet Russia renounced mutual claims, recognized each other, and established diplomatic relations. Subsequent military and economic cooperation allowed Germany to circumvent Versailles restrictions and provided the Soviet side with technology and expertise. At the same time, Soviet actors pursued revolutionary goals in Germany, training cadres and promoting political agitation, actions that also corresponded to their understanding of national interest. In 1924, Germany accepted the Dawes Plan, received Western loans, and later joined the League of Nations. Despite tensions, cooperation with the USSR continued, including the 1926 Berlin Treaty, which expanded economic and military collaboration. Relations with France and Britain, former allies in the Entente, deteriorated after Russia's withdrawal from the war and internal transformation. Interests diverged and alliances shifted accordingly. In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power, openly declaring expansion to the east and opposing communism. Soviet policy adjusted. Rapprochement with Western states, non-aggression pacts, US recognition in 1934, and entry into the League of Nations in 1935. At the same time, France and Britain pursued appeasement, allowing Germany to annex Austria and dismantle Czechoslovakia. By 1939, the Soviet leadership reassessed its position and concluded agreements with Germany, including the Non-Aggression Pact with its secret protocol. From the standpoint of national interest as then defined, this was considered a necessary step for survival. The same logic applied to Germany, despite ideological incompatibility. The outbreak of World War II again transformed alignments. Former partners became enemies, new alliances formed. The anti-Hitler coalition, USSR, United States, and United Kingdom, emerged because the Axis powers posed an existential threat. After the war, the United States and the Soviet Union, recent allies, became principal adversaries in the Cold War. Germany, previously an enemy, was reintegrated into the international system. Allies became opponents. Opponents became partners. This is how national interest operates in practice. Once this category is taken into account, international politics becomes more intelligible and apparent contradictions are resolved. The pattern is stark. Decisions driven by national interest repeatedly produce conflict, hostility, and destruction. A different logic of international relations is conceivable, but in the foreseeable future it is not evident.